Okay, let's get to it. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to start off by setting up our app. And in this section, what we want to do is just make sure that we can actually see something on the screen as we get along, right? So let's do that. So what we're going to do is start it completely from scratch. Just go to Xcode, start a new project, and come here and give it a new name. And the name I'm going to pick for mine is going to be Parle or Parler, which is French for talk. And the interface is going to be storyboard. Of course, you're going to be building it. 80% of it is going to be programmatic and 20% is going to be swiftUI. So as you can see, the interactions between those two. The language is going to be Swift. Storage is going to be none. We're not going to use core data, or we're going to actually use Realm, right? So when you come to the messages, we're going to store them in Realm as our backup. And yeah, we're going to store them in Realm, right? We're not going to include tests. So hit next like so, decide where you want it, hit create like so. And that's going to be this. This is what you're going to have. Now, I'm going to make the minimum deployment 17.0. I don't think there's anything we're going to do that is not going to be... all the features we're going to include are going to be... as the latest is probably going to be iOS 15, I'm guessing. And also maybe the preview, when we come to swiftUI, we're going to use the new way of creating previews that came with 17. But aside from that, you could follow along with deployment of about 17 or 15, right? Because there's no major feature. Maybe previews, and maybe when we come to observation, right? Observation, but it's pretty easy to use the other way. So for example, if you have an older Mac or whatnot, you might not be able to come all the way to 17. That's okay. You could follow along with 15 if you ready to work around a few edges, right? But when we come to swiftUI, we are going to use the new way of creating previews. That is the macros, right? So that's the only thing. Aside from that, iOS 15 can be your minimum deployment because everything else is going to be we're going to run probably iOS 15, right? From iOS 15. So we want to next come and get our supported destinations, and we look at this. We do not want the Apple Vision, so we hit negative. We do not want that. We do not want Mac. We do not want iPad. We only want to target iPhones, right? So that's going to be that. Next, we want the deployment info. We only want portrait mode. We don't want landscape left, and we don't want landscape right? So that is more or less done, right? We have the basics, and just to make sure everything is as it should be, we could run. Decide where you want to run the app. Maybe I'm going to pick the, let's say we want the Pro Max, right? Let's get the Pro Max for that. So you could just run it. But before that, let's just make sure that we get rid of the storyboard, and currently it's connecting via storyboard. We just want to make sure that we launch it programmatically and we see everything that we confirm that it's actually working. So let's get to it. Now, the next thing we want to do is let's get rid of our storyboard so that it can work programmatically, right? So we come here and we come to the main storyboard like so. And what we could do is come here and say delete like so. And we just move to trash rather than remove the reference. Then after that, we would need to come to the info.plist, which is just going to be the permissions that our app is given. We're going to be coming back here a bit later, or much later rather. And we just scroll down all the way to the storyboard name, and you hit this negative here to get rid of the storyboard, right? And then we go to the top level here, and I believe we go to the build settings. And in the build settings here, we come to the storyboard, and with this, we would just want to come here in the info.plist values, and we would like to hit backspace like so. So we have gotten rid of the storyboard, and if you try to run this, I'm currently selected on the Pro Max as my, what's it called? As my simulator. If we run this, this is not going to work, right? So if we do this, we give it a second, it's not going to work, I believe, but just give it a second. It's the first time it's running. So we do have the simulator here. Let's give it a second. And because it's not going to know what to do, right? So we're not going to get a storyboard and whatnot. Give it a second. And that's going to not work, I believe. Or yes, so there it is. It was starting from a cold start. So basically it doesn't know what to do. And that's what you would get, right? So what we want to do is we want to tell it exactly how to start. Yes, now we're getting the black screen because it doesn't know what our view controller is going to be, right? So what we would like to do is we would like to come here and make this view controller that is here the entry point of our app. And for us to make it the entry point of our app, we would need to tell the scene delegate that this is the entry point of our app, right? So we come to the scene delegate, the very first method. This is connection options will connect to the very first method, right? So we get that. And what we want to do is come here and we say guard let, and here we're just going to say, instead of this, we're going to say this is going to be the window scene, like so, window scene, and yeah, that's what we could call it. We could call it the window scene, else we return. And then we come here and we use the window that you can see up here, and we say something like window is going to be the same as UI window, and the frame we want it accorded to is going to be the entire everything on the screen, right? So we just say the window scene that we created up there dot coordinate space the bounds, right? So fill everything that you're given, right? And after that, we are going to give this window a window scene. The window up there, we're going to say something like window dot window scene, like so, window dot window scene. And the window dot window scene is just going to be the window scene that we just created, like so. So we have the window scene, and then you're going to say the root view controller window dot root view controller. The root view controller for now. Afterwards, we're going to have like all this amount of checks that whether the user is logged in and all that. But for now, we just want to see something on the screen. So the root view controller is just going to be set to the view controller, right? The view controller that you can see here. So we put view controller like so. And after I put the view controller, we would like to come here and say window dot make key and visible, right? So we make this the key window. And afterwards, if we run this, in order to know that this is actually what is running on our app, we could come here on the view did load in the view controller and say view dot background color, and the background color is going to be our favorite color, and we could say something like cyan. Let's pick cyan, right? So let's pick cyan like so. Save that and hit Command R, and that is just going to build, and we get cyan on the screen, right? So in order to make sure that this is actually what we have done, it's us and just not the app, we could change the color to something else so that we see that, and that's going to be, let's say, something like mint, system mint, right? So we say system mint, one of those exotic colors that Xcode has, which looks pretty much, to me, it looks like cyan. Yeah, and you could say something like yellow, right? So that was the goal of our first section, where we just ensure that we connected the view controller, got rid of the storyboard, ditched the storyboard, set up did a bit of setup, and made sure that we can actually see our app. So whatever we do, we now know is going to be shown on the simulator. So that is the first section, and we can continue from what we're going to do is in this section, we're going to put our folders in place so that we can put the various files in the folders, and particularly we could get our extensions that we're going to use to put stuff on the screen, right? Let's get those in place, and so that we can use them going forward. Now I already have a video on how you could use some of these extensions, and we're going to create an extension specifically for this app, right? So what we're going to do is let's create the various folders. We could come here to Pal and hit Command Option N, and this is going to create a new group, and this new group is going to be called, in our case, let's have this views. Call this views, right? Now we're going to have views, and views are going to be essentially tiny subviews that are contained in controllers, right? So we have views, and then of course now we would have to repeat the process, Command Option N, and this is going to be controllers, maybe, let's see, controllers, like so. And then after that, we're going to have another one. It's going to be called utils. Utils is going to have the various utilities. So we could say utils, like so. And after that, we're going to have models and services too. So here are models. Models, essentially, you're going to use it in maybe the next video. Not the next video, but we're going to use it going forward, where we describe the properties that are certain structs and classes are going to have, right? So we have models there. And then the next one is going to be services, right? So these are going to be services primarily from Firebase that we're going to use, right? So we're going to be working on those, but it's going to take a bit of time before we actually get there, right? So that is that. And I like leaving the app delegate and the scene delegate in the top level alongside the info.p list and the assets. And we'll get to the launch screen at some point, right? So that is everything we need right now. And inside utils, we're going to have a new file. So we hit Command N. And Command N, this is going to be a Swift file. This Swift file is going to be called extensions, right? Extensions like so. And we hit create, and that's going to be that, right? And now for the extensions, because this is something very common and you're going to use it whenever you use UIKit, what we could do is just put the extension package in a shortcut, right? So you put it among your shortcuts, so you could hit plus like so, and you get your extension, and that's what you're going to use, right? Or you could escape it, or you could hit Command Shift plus L, I believe. Hit Command Shift and L, and you get your extensions. And I'm going to put a link to this code, right? So we hit that, and we just select this, and we select it, and we are going to have it on the screen, right? The extension that we're going to use that is going to help us anchor, center, size, basically that. Set the size, set the height, the width, make it fill a super view, and also put multiple views in the screen with one line, right? So that's basically what all this does. I think I explained it in a video that that's already available on my channel, right? So you have everything there, and it's going to complain because it can't find a UI view. So instead of foundation, just import UIKit like so, and the complaints are going to go away. Now, to the business of the day is we need to create a convenience initializer, and the convenience initializer is going to be for the UI labels. Now we do create a lot of labels, so let's just create a convenience initializer for the labels, and this is going to help us with the default values, right, which we are going to use in several places. So let's do that. So the next thing we need to do is create our convenience initializer. Now our convenience initializer is just a secondary initializer that you can use to put default values, right? You can use it to put default values. And one very important thing is that it must call the main initializer, right? So let's put it as an extension. And this is going to be on the UI label like so. And maybe we could give ourselves a bit more real estate. And on the UI label, and this is just going to be, we say convenience like so, convenience, and we say public, and we say init like so. And what we're going to have is going to be, we want to input the text. The text is going to be of type string, and this is going to sort of as we could have that as an empty string. Then we say font is going to be of type UI font like so, and it is going to default to UI font and font.system font of size, and the size we want in particular is going to be, I think we could do 12 like so, right? And after that we could say what do we need? We need the text color. The text color is going to be of type UI color, and we're going to default it to black like so, right? So it defaulted to black. Then we have the text alignment. The text alignment, spell it correctly. Text alignment is going to be, it's going to default to the left. Text alignment is going to be NS text alignment like so, and this one is going to default to the left. We are using English, of course, and the number of lines, spell it correctly, it's going to be an integer, and it's going to let's default it to something like 1, right? So we do that, and then we now call the initializer. Let's just come in and we say self dot text is going to be the text. Then we say self dot font is going to be the font. Then we say self dot, we also put text color, didn't we? Text color is going to be the text color like so. Then we say self dot text alignment, and this is going to be text alignment like so. And then we say self dot number of lines, and this is just going to be the number of lines, right? Number of lines there, right? And now remember, it's not done until okay, also spell self properly. It's supposed to be self dot, like so. It's not done until you call the main initializer. So come here and we say self dot init, like so, right? So that's going to be that. And now let's put it here, paste, like so. So we have that, and probably put this on the second line, like so, and that's done. And now we have our initializer, and yeah, we have our convenience initializer. Now when we create UI labels, we will just be passing in the text, telling it the font, the text color, and of course, if we don't specify, we already have the defaults in place, so that's what they're going to have, right? So this is going to save us a lot of time, just like this saves us time when we are placing buttons and whatever on the screen. This will save us time when we are putting labels on the screen. Let us continue. Now, what do we want to do? Well, in this page, what we're going to do is, let me explain what we're going to be doing in the next couple of videos. So let's get this. Let's put it on the screen. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on this. This is our onboarding controller. And now what the onboarding controller is going to have is, it's going to have this sort of SF symbol. An SF symbol is, I think it came with iOS 13, which allows us to use vector symbols that come with, essentially come free with Macs, right? They're in Macs. You could use them for your projects when you're working with Xcode, right? So these are free symbols that come along with Xcode that came with iOS 13, so they must be fine, right? You must have them if you're following along. And what this page is going to do is we're going to have a couple of buttons, this buttons here, right, which are going to navigate. And what these buttons are going to do is they're going to allow you to either jump to a specific page or go to the next page, right? So this is going to be the page that welcomes users essentially onboards them and tells them what they can expect in our app, right? Now, remember, the report and block feature is very important if you're creating a social network. It's required by Apple from, I think, 2 years ago. You're supposed to have this. You have to have a feature that users can report and block people who make them feel uncomfortable, right? So it's required by Apple, so that's one of the things. So we're going to have a number of pages, as you can see with our UI page controller at the bottom here. We have a number of pages, and this is going to tell us exactly where we are. Now, when you hit this button, you're going to jump to the login page, right? So if you hit this button, you're going to jump to the login page. And if you hit the next button, you're going to cycle through the various pages where they're going to tell you that this will allow you to send messages, it will allow you to match, it will allow you to do X, Y, Z. So it will allow you to do all those things. This will tell you that. And this one will allow you to skip and jump to a specific page so that you can see the start page, right? We're going to work on the start page, I think, in the next section of this section, right? So that's basically what all this will do. And let's get to building it. So the first thing we could do is we could come to the utils. And in the utils, we could hit Command N and create a new file. This is going to be a new Swift file. And we are just going to call this constants. And hit create. And what the constants is going to have is we're going to use constants that we're going to use in several places, right? Now, the next thing we need to do is create our configuration. Now, this configuration is going to be used in several places. So for several images, and we're going to use it in particular in our buttons. Like if you look at these buttons, we're going to use, right? We're going to use it here, right? So let's put it in one place. So let's come here, and we might need to import UIKit. So come here and say, okay. So we have UIKit, and what we want to do is say let k configuration. I'll give it a name that makes sense to you. K configuration is going to be UI image image, like so, and we want symbol configuration, right? And we want the one with the point size, like so, and the point size in question is going to be 16, and the weight, we want it to be as heavy as possible, right? Now the heaviest weight is going to be black, right? If we come here, this is an ultra heavy weight, so the heaviest weight available is going to be black, right? So that's what we're going to use in our particular buttons, right? And then after that, let's move the view controller to the trash, right? Let's just delete it. Of course, if you run our app now, it's not going to work, and the reason is because we no longer have to. We're telling the scene delegate to run the view controller, and that's gone, right? So what we would want to do is maybe come to our controllers here, hit Command N, and create a new Swift file. This one is going to be called the Onboarding Controller. Spell it correctly, or if you spell it incorrectly, make sure you use it like that. And this one is going to be import UIKit. And if you import UIKit, you no longer need to import foundation, right? Probably carries everything with foundation. And what we want to do next is create this. So you could say class onboarding controller, and this is going to be of type UI. It's going to be type UI view controller. And we could come here and we say view did load, like so, and call super view did load, like so. And we just make sure everything is on the screen. So we say view dot background color, and the background color can be dot red. Let's make sure that's the case. Come to the scene delegate, and it's going to be complaining here, and we would like to have the onboarding controller. Make sure everything is as it should be. Run this, and if we run this, this should give us a red screen. So we know now everything is working as it should. Let's continue. Now, the next thing we need to do is let's go to our extensions. We could put it as a UI in our UI view controller. And this is because we're going to use it also in another section. So we're going to make it an extension on UI view controllers to create certain buttons, right? Because we're going to use them in several places, right? So let's put them here. So we come here and we say extension, and this is going to be on the UI view controller, like so. And we would like to create a method here called func make page button, right? We're essentially going to use this to navigate, right? This is the function that creates the buttons that you saw at the bottom there, right? So it's going to take name of an image from an SF symbol. It's going to be a string, and we're going to come here and we say we want a UI button, like so. And we are going to come here and we say we want let image, and the image is just going to be a UI image, like so. And we want an SF symbol image, so we could come here and we say this is going to be system name. The system name in question is going to be the image that is passed in, the string essentially that is passed in. And the configuration, we already saw the constant, so we say k configuration, like so, right? And then we come here and we say let button, or let's say let btn, so that we don't have to spell it all the time. We say UI button. This is going to be a type UI button, and the type is going to be UI button, spell it correctly. And the type is going to be dot system, like so. And there are two ways to create buttons. I'm going to show you both of them. You could create, you see either being created, either method being used, right? Button dot tint color, and the tint color is going to be we want it to be dot white, like so. And then we say btn dot, this is going to background color is going to be dot black, like so. And then we say btn dot set image, and the image is going to be image, and the state is going to be dot normal for the normal state, right? Then after that we say button dot set size, like so. This is our method from our extension, and we want it to be 44 by 44. And since we want the buttons to be round, we say btn dot layer dot corner radius, and this is going to be 44 by 2, which is going to be 22. And then we just say we return the button. So we come here and we say return btn, right? So that's our button, and we basically now need to use it. Let's put it on the screen next. Let's put the function we created in our extensions to good use, right? So we come to the onboarding controller, and in the onboarding controller, what we're going to do is we're going to create two variables, two buttons, and these are basically going to be the buttons that you can see here, right? Let me just show you, remind you where they are, and here, right? There's two buttons, right? So these are the ones we're going to create. So we come here and we say we would like to have lazy var, and this is going to be skip button, and this one is going to be the make page button, and this one requires an image. And for that, you could look for the SF symbol app. Just Google SF symbol, and the app in question, you're going to find it here, and you can search for SF symbols. And the SF symbol in question we want is going to be arrow, and we want the arrow dot u-turn, u-turn, spell it correctly, dot left, right? So arrow dot u-turn dot left. I can't see it. but oh, here it is. It's actually at the very top. Copy the name so that you don't have to type it. Make sure it's a string. Come here, paste it, and that's going to be that, right? Then we have another one we're going to have is going to be lazy var, and this one is going to be the next button, right? Next button, and this is going to be the function. Remember, it's available over all view controllers. It's going to be called make page button, and this one is going to be called arrow.right, right? So that's just going to be arrow dot, let's see, arrow dot right. The very first one, copy name, come here, it's a string, put it there, right? So that, and just to make sure that everything is as it should be, we could add it to our view, and maybe let's make it a less harsh color. Let's say mint, system mint, like so. And what we would like to do is put our two buttons on the screen. So we say view dot add subviews. Remember, add subview is the method that comes with the view controller, but add subviews is the one that we created, right? For our extension, we put in our extension, right? So add subviews, the difference is this one allows you to pass variadic parameters, that is multiple views, right? So we could, instead of say view.add subview, then the first button, view.add subview, then the second button, we could put them all in the second line with the function in the extension that we created, right? So we could come here and we just say we want the skip button, like so, and we also want the next button, right? And if we do that and run this, we're going to see them. Of course, they're not going to be where we want them to be. We could do that in the next thing. So they're basically here. They're going to be, both of them are going to be here. So you see the next button and the skip button, and they're both going to be here because we have not told them exactly where we want to put them, right? We could do that in the next section, but the fact that we actually see our buttons here is a good thing, because that means that everything is actually working. Our make page button function is actually working. Let's continue. Now, what we want to do is let's run this first. What we'd like to do is we'd like to make our buttons pulsate. Make them, this is going to be the first animation that we do. We're just going to make our buttons pulsate. And how this is going to help us is that it's going to add a sort of, it's sort of going to give the user a sort of visual feedback on what they're supposed to do, interact with the buttons in some way. Currently, the buttons are all crammed up here, and we'd like to get them maybe to the bottom here and the bottom here. Now, unlike other places, or unlike most places, right, we are not going to put them permanently here. We want, when the user gets to the start page, for us to yank them off the screen, right? So it's going to be a bit different so that we can actually animate our buttons off the screen, right? So what we'd like to do, and because this functionality of pulsating is going to be used in several places by several buttons, we need to create an extension for it. So we come here to the UI view controller, and what we'd like to do now is just come and say something like create an extension, and this extension is going to be on the button. So we say extension, like so, and this is going to be on UI button. And what we would want is a function, and the function is just going to be called something like pulsate. And pulsate is going to do exactly what you think it's going to do, and that's going to be let pulse. We're going to use the layer and a bit of springiness, so we could say let pulse, and this is going to be core animation spring animation, and the key path in particular we want the pulsation is just going to be transform, like increase the size and then reduce it, right? That's going to be how we describe our pulsation, right? So we just say transform for the key path, transform dot scale, like so, right? So we have the scale there, and then we say pulse, how long it's going to last. So we have the duration. The duration here is going to be something like 0.7. Then we come here and we say pulse, okay, pulse dot from value, that's when it starts. We say from 0.7 to pulse dot to value. This is going to be something like 1. So it's going to go all the way from 70% of the size to 1% of the size, and we're going to auto reverse it. So we say pulse dot auto reverses, and that's going to be set to true. And then we want to say pulse dot initial velocity, and this one is going to be 0.3. And then we say pulse.damping, and this one is going to be 1.0 like so, and pulse.repeat count. We want it to repeat 5 times, right? But sometimes when you do that, it doesn't end on a good enough repeat. You want it to end when essentially the button is getting bigger. So in such a situation, I know the repeat count looks like something that you could put an integer, but in actual fact, it doesn't have to be. It could be a flute. You could put a CG flute, right? Choreographic flute, right? So what we do is we add it to the layer so that you can see it. We say layer.add, and the animation in question is the one that we just created. So that's going to be pulse, and the key is going to be, we could say for the key, nil, like so, right? So we do that, and how we add it to our button is, remember, we create our buttons on the onboarding controller here. We create our buttons by calling this function makePageButton, which is available on our extensions for all possible controllers, view controllers, right? So what we'd like to do actually is call it here, say btn dot pulsate, like so, right? So if we do this and we run this, our buttons should pulsate. But remember, the buttons are on top of each other, right? So it might not, you might not notice it well. So basically, you can see our buttons are pulsating, right? So that's our button pulsating. But what we'd like to do is, next, we'd probably like to move them down here, right? So let's do that. The next thing we need to do is we would like to put essentially our buttons on the screen, right? So for now, what we could do is, let's come back to our onboarding controller. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to create two, let's create two constraints for them. So we're going to say var, one for each, var skip button bottom anchor, and this is going to be ns layout constraint, like so, and it's going to be like that. And then we're going to say var next button, which is going to be the same type, ns layout constraint, like so, right? Now what we want to do next is going to be a function. This is going to be called something like func configure UI, which we are going to call configure UI, like so. And we could come here, and the first thing we want to do is maybe get rid of these 2 lines, copy these 2 lines, put them inside our configure UI, cut them, put them here, let's paste them here, and maybe make this white. So we just say white, like so. And after that, we would like to put the various anchors, and we say skip button dot anchor, like so. And we're just going to say the leading anchor is going to be the view dot leading anchor, like so. The padding leading is just going to be 8. Then we come here and we say next button, we want the anchor to be the trailing anchor is going to be view dot trailing anchor, like so. And the padding on that side is going to be 8, like so. And we can scroll down a bit, and then we would like to say afterwards skip button bottom anchor, like so. This is just going to be skip button dot bottom anchor dot constraint, and this is going to be equal to, and we could say that this is the view dot safe area layout guide dot bottom anchor, like so. And the constant is going to be, remember, it has to be the skip button is going to be on the, I believe, the side where I put -8. Is that the trailing side? Yeah, it's going to be on the trailing side, I think. Let's just do that, and then we come here and we check it out. We say skip button dot skip button bottom anchor dot is active. We set it to true, right? Let's see what that looks like, and then we can do the other one, right? Oh, we're not calling it, right? So we need to call it. So configure UI, like so. and reload it, and we should see, there it is, right? It's working. Now that we have put one button, let's put the other, right? So let's come here, and that's going to be the next page button. What we want to do is basically the same thing we've done, but maybe with the constant being positive this time. So we just say next button, bottom anchor, right? Is just going to be equal to next button dot bottom anchor, like so, bottom anchor dot constraint, and this is going to be equal to, with the constant, this is going to be view dot, remember it's at the bottom, safe area layout guide, and we want the bottom anchor, and we want the constant this time. The constant is going to be positive, right? So we say 8, right? No, it's also bottom, right? So it's actually going to be -8, right? Because we want it to go up, right? So we want it to go up. It's not to the left. I was a bit, yeah. So here is where we're going left and right, and it's already handled by our extensions package. Here we just want to push them up, so it's going to be -, right? And then of course we have to activate it. So we come and say this is going to be next button, bottom anchor dot is active. Bottom anchor dot is active, like so, and we just want to set this to true, right? So if we do this and run this, we should get our buttons, right? And you can see them in all the glory, getting bigger and smaller, and then they stop. You see how they stop? They have a sort of abrupt stop. We could try and make it a bit better it, right? So by, you would say, we could make this 5.5, like so. In the pulsate, try running this, and now when it comes to an end, okay, it's going to be a bit better, slightly better to my eyes, right? So we are going to do that. We're going to leave it like that, and we can actually proceed from here. Let's continue. Now what you're going to do is, let's have a look at this. We are now going to create the onboarding controller, and the onboarding controller is going to be essentially, for every single one of these pages, is going to be exactly the same. So we're going to create one sort of controller that we could just pass in a name and the name of the SF symbol, and so it can create the image plus this, the title. We could call this the title and the subtitle, right? So it's going to be the same for every single one of these pages, except it's going to have different text and different and a different SF symbol, which is what is going to render this particular image, right? So we're just going to create the sort of shell that we are going to repopulate with different information to show it in several of them, right? Now, because of that's actually what it is, we could actually call this it's going to be called, this onboarding controller is what is going to be the container for that container, right? So basically this could change it. We could change it to something like, call it the start page controller, like so, and maybe come here and select this, and let's refactor and rename this. We call this start page controller, right? And the start page controller, hit rename, it's going to be named here, and I believe in the scene delegate as our entry point, which is going to be our start page controller. Now the next page, since it's going to be a container, I know you already said that views are going to be contained in the controllers, right? So we could use that idea, or we could put the onboarding controller, because it's going to be a controller, among the controllers, or you could put it among the views, whichever you prefer. It is okay, right? So one is right because it's literally a controller, the other one is contained in the other one. So yeah, so what we could do is we could come here, it doesn't really matter where you put it, right? Hit a new Swift file, create it. It's going to be called onboarding controller, like so, right? Hit create wherever you want to put it. Come here, we need UIKit, right? Import UIKit from the very top. Come here, and we're just going to say class, and this one is going to be called the onboarding controller. It's going to be of type UI view controller, like so. Come here, and then it's going to have a bunch of things, right? So let's discuss exactly what it's going to have and then implement it, right? So this can be created. This is essentially these are labels, and we can just use the extension, the convenience initializer that we created for title labels, and we could use them to create this and also this, right? And then this is going to be an SF symbol, so we just need an image view where we pass in the name, and then maybe you could use an initializer so that you can create, like, how many of them are you going to create? You're going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of them, and then the last one is going to be the login page, right? So we need to create 5 of them. So because we're going to do that, we just need an initializer where we're going to pass in the name of the SF symbol, the title, and the subtitle, right? That's what we're going to call this second line. So we could do that. Let's continue. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to create the various elements, right? So let's start with the stack view. So we say, let's give ourselves a bit more real estate. Come here, say we want the stack view, and the stack view is just going to be of type UI stack view, like so. And we need to specify how we want it. So we say let SV, short for stack view, is going to be UI stack view, like so. So we're going to have the stack view. Then we say sv.axis. I'm not sure which it defaults to, but just to make sure it's going to be vertical, we're going to put it as vertical. I think it defaults to horizontal. I'm not sure. sv.spacing, we want 10 points between them. Then we want sv.alignment. Alignment, we want them centered, so we say dot center, like so. And then we need to return sv like so. Put the initializer there, right? Then we have the image view, which we're going to use. This is going to be let image view, or give it a more descriptive name. This is going to be of type UI image, okay, spell it correctly, UI image view, like so. Come here, and this is going to be this. Do that, come here, and we're just going to call it let IV for, I'm sure you know what that is. That's going to be UI image view, like so. UI image view, and we want it to be IV dot content mode. Content mode is going to be dot scale aspect fit. Then we say IV dot tint color. This is going to be dot system. What's it going to be? It's going to be system purple, like so. Then we're just going to return it. Return IV. So we have our IV. The next is going to be our label. And now, remember, you have to give it equal space. Swift is very finicky about that. The next thing, we need to use our title label from our glorious extensions that we just created. Let's just say let title label, like so. Spell it correctly, or if you spell it incorrectly, continue referring to it as that. Say UI label. UI label, remember, we don't want the normal label, we want our convenience one. So we say the font here is going to be dot preferred font. For textile is going to be, we want it large, so we say we want it with title 1. That helps us because it sort of scales it, right? So do that. Use preferred font whenever you can, right? I can't remember the name of the same thing is also available on swiftUI, right? So we see here, but we'll get to swiftUI, so don't worry about that. That's a couple of hours away though. Swift subtitle label, rather. This is also going to be a UI label, and we want our convenience, like so. And we would like the font to be our preferred font. So we say this is going to be preferred font for textiles, and we want it slightly smaller. Body. So you see, this is title 1. Title 1, as you can see, is the big one, report and block. This is the smaller one, right? So that's what we have. And this one, we want it to be we want a few more things here. We want the text alignment. Well, this is actually stuff I did, played around with it because it was some of it was being misshapen according to the amount of data that it is, right? So I played around with it until I got the text alignment that will work, right? That's why I'm specifying it to be center, not left aligned, because as you can see with the text, you see we want it to look good for 2 lines, right? So I played around and found that this was among the best, right? And then we need to specify that the number of lines here is going to be 0, right? So I'm not sure what it defaults to. Let's look at our extensions and make sure that it defaults to 1, right? So we make it to 0 and play around with it until you get something you like, right? So this is actually a product of me playing around with it and getting it to what I like, right? So that, now the next thing we need to do is we need to create the initializer, and this initializer is going to be used for this particular page so that we can pass on all these values as we are building it. Now what we need to do is create the initializer that we're going to use on this particular page, right? So we just need to come here and we say init, like so. Init, and the init, come here. Okay, wait. Init, do that, come here. Call the super, we say super dot init, and the nib name is going to be nil. We're not using that. The bundle is going to be nil. And for our initializer, what we'd like to do is going to be, we need an image name, and the image name is going to be a string that's passed in. Then we need a title. All of them are going to be strings, I believe. Title is going to be string. Then we also need a subtitle, right? Subtitle, which is also going to be a string. So we have those strings, and what we need to do is come here, hit the required, because we are of course creating this, right? We're not using the storyboard, so you need to hit that. So what we need to do next is come here and say image view dot image. We're using an SF symbol, right? So we come here and we say UI image, and we want the one with the system name, and remember it needs to be a string, so we just pass in the image name, right? Image name, right? Spell it correctly, like so. And then we say title label. Title label is the next one. We want the text, and the text is just going to be gotten from the title, like so. Then we are going to say the next one is going to be subtitle label, like so, and we need the text, and this one can be gotten from the subtitle, right? And that is going to be everything. Then we need the view did load, so come here, say view did load, and you get that functionality, and call the super. So we say super view did load, then create a function that doesn't exist yet. We say configure UI, like so. Call that. It's not going to work because it doesn't yet exist, right? So it's going to complain, I believe. I'm waiting for it to complain. Can't find configure UI, and now we can put it. We say func configure UI. Configure UI. What does configure UI do? It just adds the various stack views, right? So we say stack view dot add arrange subview, and this is going to be the image view. And we're going to essentially do what we do with our variadic parameters when we are calling the method on views, right? So basically, if you want, you could also go and create an extension for stack views, which would make sense because we're going to use a lot of stack views as we're going along, right? We have, I believe, over 20 screens, and most of them are in UIKit. So we are going to get intimately involved, if you could put it like that, with the stack view, right? So let's come here and we say stack view dot add arrange subview, like so. And the next one is going to be title label, like so. And then, okay, come back here. Title label, come here. Then the next one is going to be the stack view dot add arrange subview. What's the add arrange subview? The subview in this question is going to be the subtitle label. Now we have that, right? And after that, we could add our subview, right? Because all of them are going to be in the stack view. We could use either of the addition methods that we put in our extensions, right? So we could say view.add subview or add subviews, right? Whichever you prefer, because we're only going to have this stack view, right? So we put the stack view there. And then the next thing we want to do is we would need to center it in the view, right? So we could come here and we say we want the stack view and we would like to center it. So we say dot center, and the view in question is going to be the super view, right? So we do that. And then after that, we need to give the image view a size, and we also need to give the subtitle label, we give the subtitle label an anchor, I believe, right? So yeah, so let's do that. So let's come here and we say, what do we want to do? We would like to come here and we say image view dot set size. There's a set size method, right? Set size, and here it has a height and width, and all we need to do is provide the values. We say view dot, we want it to be relative, so we say view dot frame dot width, want it to occupy half the height, so we say view dot frame dot width multiplied, or half of the width, right? We say 0.5, and basically we also want the same for the width, right? So get the width, calculate the width, divide it by 2, make that the size of the image view, right? Do this, right? View.frame.image width, right? You could put it as a constant because you use it in multiple places. Get rid of the comma, make sure everything is as it should be, right? Now the next thing would be the subtitle. So let's come here and we just need to say subtitle label dot anchor, like so, and the anchor, and here we're just going to say the leading is going to be the view dot leading anchor, like so. The trailing is going to be the view dot trailing anchor, like so. The padding leading, like so. This is going to be something like 8, you could say 0.0, 8.08, either will work. It will be cast into the correct value. And then after that, you're going to say padding trailing, right? This is going to also be 8. You could say here 8 without putting the 0.0. So this is basically all, I believe, if I'm not wrong, all the information that we need to essentially put our stack view on our onboarding controller. And the only thing left is maybe to make the image flash, which we're going to do in a bit. But let's just first see it on the screen, and then we can make the image flash. The next thing we need to do is we would need to probably let's go and put our page controller, and our page controllers are just the dots at the bottom, right? Let's go put our page controller and the pages that are going to be represented by the page controllers on the screen, right? So for that, we need to come back to our start page controller, which the onboarding controller is going to be contained in. And here we're going to create a variable, and this variable in particular is going to be called it's going to contain all the pages, right? So we say here var pages, and this is just going to be an array of view controllers which are made up of the onboarding controller. So it's going to be UI view controller, like so, and it's going to start off as view controller, like so, and it's going to start off as empty, so we could do that. So that's going to be empty like that, and then we're going to create of course Swift is finicky because it thinks this is a unary operator. It's not a unary operator. So we come here and we say we want the page control, so we say let page control, spell it correctly, page control, and page control is going to be of type UI page control. And we come here, and what do we want? Put that there. And for the page control, we just want to say let PC, which is going to be UI page where is it, page control. So UI page control, and then we say PC.current page tint page indicator tint color. This is going to be .black, the page that we're currently on. Then PC.page indicator tint color, this is going to be .system purple, like so. Then we're just going to return it, so we say return PC, right? Now we have our page like so, right? Then the next thing we need to do is we need to tell it which page you're going to start at, which is going to obviously be page 0. So let's say let initial page is going to start off at 0, right? Then we're going to come here and we say we're basically going to do this because when you get to the login page, we're going to yank the skip button, the next button, and the skip button, the next button, and the page control off the page, right? So for that, we just need the same variable as this others. It's going to be the exact same thing. Var we say page control bottom anchor, and this is going to be ns layout constraint, like so. And what we want to do is after that, we'd probably create a function for configuring our pages, right? In our view did load, let's come here and we say configure page, right? Pages, or configure page, or pages, or whatever you want to call it. We have not yet created it first, so it's going to complain. Come here, make sure you call the function the same thing you called it up there, configure pages, right? So configure pages like so. And it's going to, need to put that there. So we have our function there. And now what you're going to do in configure pages, the first thing we could do before we actually deal with the pages, because that's a lot of things we need to do to make it up and running. We need to put our dots at the bottom of the screen for the page control. So how we do that is we come to the view variadic function here, where we put the added subviews, and after the skip button, what we want to do is put the page control, then figure out how to put it at the very bottom. But unlike the others, which are at the edges, this one is going to be the middle of the screen, right? Instead of this one, which is to the left, and this one is or rather the leading side, the trailing side, this one is going to be smack bang in the middle, right? So we put page control. Why is it not highlighting page control? What do we call it? We call it page control, right? Page control. Okay. For some reason, we're putting page control in the view.add subviews, and it's being highlighted in a weird color. So I'm like, did we type it correctly? But it's not complaining, so that means that everything is kosher. So what we'd like to do on the page control, let's come here and we say page control, and we want to center it on the x-axis. So we say dot center x. center X in view, and the view is just going to be the parent. So we say parent like so, and then we do all this that we did with the skip and the next button, right? So we come here and we say page control, which needs the bottom anchor, right? Page control bottom anchor, and this is just going to be the page control like so, page control, and then we want the bottom anchor, and then we want the constraint, and we want equal to the constant, right? Equal to, and this is just going to be, we want it to clear the safe area, so we say view dot safe area layout guide dot bottom anchor like so. The constant here, we want it to go up, so it's going to be negative because we're moving up. When you move down, it's positive. I think we have already gone over that. And then we need to activate it, so we say page control bottom anchor like so, and we want to activate it, so we say is active. We say that to true, right? So that is going to be that. Let's see it on the screen, right? Let's see it on the screen. We're going to worry about configuring the pages a bit later, right? I still am wondering why the color is off kilter, right? Slightly different. Okay, let's run this and see it on the screen. Hopefully we've done everything as it should, and we cannot see our page control, right? So our page control does not exist. What could be the matter? We don't have any pages, right? I forgot. We don't have any pages, but I suspect that it's there, right? I suspect it's there, but we'll continue and we'll work until we actually. What we're going to do next is we are going to put all our pages in the configure pages and then figure out how we can show them, right? So let's start with creating our pages. So we're going to have 6 pages. The first one is going to be, let page 1 is going to be, we call the onboarding controller, and it requires an image, image name, a title, and a subtitle, right? Like you've seen, right? So this is going to be, let's go to our SF symbol, and in the SF symbols, what we want is, let's come and check a heart, say heart like so, and what we want is going to be heart dot, let's say dot circle, and we want the filled one. So we could copy this. This is going to be our name, and come here and we say this is going to be the name. And then for the title, we are going to be something like get matches, and the subtitle in question is going to be something like swipe. Okay, decrease the amount of space. Swipe right to match with people close to you, right? So we do that, and after that we could create page 2. So that's going to be let page 2, and page 2 is also going to be an onboarding controller, and the image name here is going to be let's come back to SF symbol, and we just want something with a text bubble, right? So that it can show something that conveys messaging. Look for something that conveys messaging, which is going to be text dot, one of this, it looks nice, text dot, okay, text dot bubble. Let's get one of the text bubbles and pick one which is filled, right? So you could either get the bubble left and text bubble right. Actually, we're not going to use this because you're going to use this in on our tab bar. This is what you're going to use on our tab bar, and this is what you're going to use here, right? So we're going to use this, and I believe this, if I'm not wrong, on our tab bar. But that's a couple of videos away. That's a few hours away from now. So yeah, so you're going to use this here. And remember, it has to be a string, so stringify it or make it a string, like so. Have the text bubble.fill. The title is going to be private message, like so. The subtitle is going to be what it's going to do, right? Chat privately with your matches, right? Something that conveys what we're going to do, right? Then we come here and we say let page 3, and page 3 is going to be basically right now it's same old. We're just going to repeat a lot of this, and here we need something that conveys photos, right? So what could convey photo? Come back here, SF symbol. What we're going to have here is we want something that shows sort of like a camera. So we come here and we say camera. You either, I don't know how you're going to communicate that this is a photo, but we use different images for photos in different places, right? So later on we'll use another icon. So if you don't like this as a photo, just know that we are going to use the other one. It may make a bit more sense to you to use the image or the photograph or whatever it's called as a photo, but what we want to communicate here is that you are able to send users images, right? So here it's going to be camera dot circle, like so, and pick one of these. I'm going to pick this one. This is going to be camera.circle.fill. Do that, paste that. The title in question is going to be share photos, right? The subtitle in question is going to be share images with your matches, or something of the sort, right? Then we have this is going to be something to do with notifications, right? So for the notifications, what we want to do is let's come back to our SF symbol, get something we like. This is going to be bell. So just pick this, say something like bell dot circle, this one, like so, right? Come here, select this, copy the name, come back here. This is going to be that, paste that, stringify it, make it a string, like so. Come here with the title. The title in question is going to be something like get notified. The subtitle in question is going to be something like get notifications, like so, for matches and messages, right? Come here, do it again, that page 5, like so. It's going to be onboarding controller, like so. Image name is going to be what's this one going to be? This one is going to be about the ability to report users, right? Now there are two icons I was thinking that you could use for report, but one, we also have, it's a requirement by Apple that you actually have an ability to block users, right? So this one is just going to inform people about the ability to report users, but for the block we're going to use the palm sign, right? So something like, is it hand? Let's look for hand, right? So this hand.raise.fill, right? So we're going to use this as a block, but we are going to now use something else, right, to show that you've blocked somebody else. So you're going to use that, but you're going to use that a bit later, right? So what we want is going to be person, and there are a bunch of people, a person with a slash through it, like with an X mark, right? Person, person, I think is going person.circle. Yeah, we're going with a circular. We have them like in circles, and maybe crop. I think it's crop. Spell it correctly. Crop dot circle dot badge dot x mark, right? Dot badge dot x mark, right? This one, right? So copy name. So this, the person in the circle with an X, that might be what we want. And the title is going to be, come here, say report and block. What do you want to report? The subtitle in question is going to be report and block users who make you feel uncomfortable. Let's spell it correctly, right? So basically that, and if you notice, right, this is it, right? So this is actually what you're trying to do. This is basically what we have done, right? So that's that. And the last one is going to be, we come to our controllers, hit Command N, create a new one. This is going to be a Swift file. It's going to be the login page, and we call it the login controller, or give it a name that's meaningful to you. Come here, we need to import UIKit, which includes foundation, and come here, say class. This is going to be login controller. It's going to be of type UI view controller. We've done that a bunch of times now. We need the view did load. We need to call the super. Come here, say view dot background color. Make it, what color do we make it? Let's make it system, okay, not system background, something that, let's say magenta, whatever that is, right? So let's make this magenta, like so, and then come back to where we were. And what we want is going to be let page 6, and this is going to be page 6. Page 6 is going to be the login controller, right? So you're going to loop through them and get to the login controller, and when you get to the login controller, it's basically going to show you a different page, and then we can yank off the various buttons off the page, right? So that is basically that. So now we probably have a lot. We have almost everything we need to see on the screen. Actually, I think we have everything we need to see on the screen. It's just that maybe we need to put some of the functionality for the page control, right? But we have our buttons, but we're not seeing the image, right? So how we see the image is pretty straightforward. We have this variable that we created for our pages, and I've given it a bit more space. We have this variable that we have created for our pages and the initial page. So let's get set things going, right? So we would come here, and the first thing we would need to do is we need to append all the pages that we just created and put them in the this one can hold view controllers, right? And we created a bunch here. Let's put them inside. So if you want to put them all in one go, you could say append for each one, right? Like say page.append page 1, page.append page 2. But if you want multiple, to do a number of them in one go, you could come here and we say append contents of, and then you could just pass in an array, right? So we put in an array with all these pages. So we come here and say this is going to be page 1, comma, then we come here and say page 2, comma, then we say page 3, comma, then we say page 4, comma, like so, and maybe a couple more. We need page 5, comma, and then we have page 6. So we have now 6 pages all appended, right? Now the next thing we need to do is we need to call the set view controllers, right? Come here, say set view controllers. Okay, we don't have that, and the reason we don't have that is because this is a view controller right now. We need to make it UI page view controller, so that it has the ability to manipulate the page controls that we just put in place. So how do we do that, right? We do that pretty simply by saying page control and then tell it the number of pages, right? Come here, say page control, like so. Then we need to tell it the number of pages. The number of pages is going to be pages dot count, right? So that it knows the number of dots to show on the screen. Then after that we say page control dot current page. You tell it the current page. We created a variable for initial page. If you can remember, I told you that the initial page is going to be 0, right? So we do that, and then that's basically it. And if we do that, we haven't called the set view method, right? So we say set view controllers like so, and the view controllers is just going to be an array, and we want pages, right? Pages plural, and then we want one of them. This is going to be initial page, which is going to be the first one. Then after that, the direction we want it to go is forward, and animation is always good, so we say true, right? So we run this. It won't work, probably won't work, because we still haven't done a number of things. But the advantage is right now we can actually see we can see the very first one, right? The very first hat.circle.fill, right? So this is what it looks like, right? So this is what it looks like. And what we'd like to do next is probably figure out, we need to set the data source and the delegate. But before that, what we could do is we could maybe make the particular image, this image, flash, right? So how we would do that is we need to go to our extensions like so. And after the extension for the UI button, we'll probably use this in another place, so it's good. We would put it on all images. We say UI image, and we want the image view like so. And this is just going to have a function called flash. This function is going to be called flash like so. Flash like so. Come here and we just say let flash is going to be CA basic animation. Going to have the key path. Key path in question is going to be opacity. How you create the flash is just by manipulating the opacity, right? So you increase the opacity from 0 to 1, and then 0 to 1, and then reverse it, right? And then repeat it a bunch of times, add it to the layer, and that's basically how you create a flash, right? But like I said, we're going to do a number of animations, so by the end of this, you're going to be really, really good at animations, right? Flash, and then we say the duration. The duration we want it to go for is going to be 1.0, and we want to flash from value. So this is going to be the opacity. It's going to go from value. This is going to be, from value is going to be 0, like so. Then we say flash dot to value, right? To value, this is going to be the end value, so go from 0 to 1, and have a timing function. So you say flash dot timing function like so, and this is going to be CA media timing function, and the name of the timing function is going to be, there are a number of them, ease in out, there are about 4, I believe. Ease in out, ease out, okay, let me not say definitively, but there are 4, but the popular ones are 4, right? So it's going to be ease in, ease out like so. And then we want it to auto reverse, i.e. return to its original state, and when it gets to the end. So we say flash dot auto reverses, and this is obviously going to be true, like so. and then we want it, how many times do we want to see it? Well, we want to see it 5 times, so we come in and say flash dot repeat count, repeat count, repeat count, repeat count. Great song by Bo Burnham. Come here and say, okay, it doesn't say repeat count, but it's a good song, right? So we say layer.add, and what do we want to add? The animation in question, just created up here, flash, and the key is going to be nil, right? So now what we have is that every image has the actual ability to flash. Let's figure out where to put it in our image and then show it. So the next thing would be, we need to make our image flash, right? It's currently just, it's static, and what we could do is we could make it flash. It looks a bit better when it's flashing the first couple of times. The way this one sort of, but this one gets bigger, right? This one gets bigger. What we want is to play with the opacity, which is our flash, right? So where we do that is, we probably come to the onboarding controller. That's where we do it. And here in the configure UI, we could just come and where we're putting the image view, or whatever you called it, right? I called it image view. So we just need to come here and we say flash like so, right? So if we reload this and run our app, we should see the image flashing, and that's what a flash looks like. You may argue that it takes a bit too long. The 1 second of the between the flashes is a bit long, and yeah, and you can see that it ends like that, right? You could maybe adjust and play around with it. Maybe let's adjust it. Let's come to extensions, go down all the way to image view, make it 0.8 like so. It's a bit better. Run it and essentially play with it until you get something that you actually like, right? So that's our first page. Of course, it doesn't still work, right? Our app still doesn't work because you still can't go between the pages. We have all the pages clearly. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you cannot see them, right? So what you do is we would need to first, we would need to get back to our pages and essentially put the page view controller and the delegate, right? We need to put the page view controller and the delegate and then tell it a number of things about how the page control will work, right? So let us go back to our start page, and we would like here on our page, okay, you could do it in the configure pages because it's related to the pages, or you could do it in the view did load, right? I'm going to do it in the, let's make it in the configure pages, right? So we come here and we say the data source is going to be the self, and then the delegate is going to be the self, right? So we do that, it's going to complain, and the reason it's going to complain is we need to create extensions, and what these extensions are going to do is they're going to be extensions for the page view controller delegate and what's the other one? Page view controller delegate, and I'm forgetting the other one, right? Anyway, we just need to create a bunch of them and then create a bunch of methods, right? So we just come here and we say extension like so. This is going to be start page controller, and this is going to be UI page controller page view controller delegate, right? So we do that, come here, and they're going to be, I don't think there's a method we need here. It's the other one that has 2 methods, right? So the, what's it called? The method for the page view controller data source is the one that has a bunch of methods we need to institute, right? But there's still going to be a method that we put here, right? So we come here and we say extension, or you could do it all in the same line and include all the methods here, but I want you to know which ones go where, right? So here we would say start page controller like so. This is going to be UI page view controller data source, right? So the data source, we need to tell it what to do when you're going forward and what to do when we're going back, right? So it's going to complain because we need to institute 2 methods. So hit fix, and that's going to be the view controller before and the view controller after when you're going forwards and backwards, right? So how we do that is we need to get the current page, right? So we want the ability first. Let me explain how we're going to do it. We want the ability to wrap around, right? So for example, when you get to, as you're flipping through the pages and you get to the last page, we need to tell it what to do in case we do that, right? So best explained with code, right? So we get the current index, so we say guard let current index, and the current index is going to be pages, go down from the pages, and we just want the first index of the view controller, right? So we say view controller that we can get here, right? So guard let that's view controller, and if we can't get it, what we want to do is just say else return nil, right? Return nil. If you can't get the view controller, return nil, right? So when we get that, and then we check if the current page, come here and we say if current index, the current index is 0, i.e. we're on the first page, what we want to do is return pages.last, right? So if the current index is and here we're not assigning but checking. If we get to the first page and then you try to swipe to the previous page, wrap around, go to the last page, right? So there's an option. You could either decide not to go to another page, another page, or you could wrap around, right? So that's the case. Else, bring the previous page, right? And how do we do that? We just say return. That means we're not at the very first image, right? So if you go, for example, you go to if you go next, no, before. If you go before, and you get to current page index, and you hit before again, you're supposed to wrap around, get back to the last, so that you can essentially do it in a loop, right? You will see that in a bit. If you haven't understood by my explanations, you will see it on the app, right? So here we just say pages.current_index, and to it we subtract 1, right? So that is basically it, and we need to repeat the trick for the other one, right? Basically do the same but for this one. And what we want to do now is just come here and we say it needs a return, so we get the current index. So guard let, and this is going to be current index, and current index is going to be pages dot first index of, and we just want the particular view controller like so, and we want else like so. Come here, and this is going to be return nil, right? Like so. So we have that, and the next thing we need to do is we would need to come here and we say if current index is less than pages dot count minus 1, right? If we're not on the last page, that is, return pages current index plus 1, right? So basically what we're saying here is if you're not on the last page, if we are not on the last page, not greater than but lesser than, right? It's the opposite of what we were doing here, right? If we are not on the last page, if it's less, just increment it, right? Else, that is, we're on the last page, return the first page, right? So that you wrap around, right? So we say return pages dot first, right? So if you're going like next, and then pages dot count is equal to the last page, which is going to be that, right? If it's not less than, right, that means that it would be equal in this case. Just wrap around, right? So that's basically what we have done, and those are our two methods, but we have put the data source method first, and then we'll next look at the delegate method. Now we have that down pat. The next thing we need to do is I still think we need to sort out we need to create a bunch of functions, right? And these functions are going to decide what to do, like when we want to show a page, go to a previous page and whatnot, and so on and so forth, right? So what we want to do is and we'll be calling some of them here in the UI page view controller delegate, right? And what we could do is let's just make sure everything is kosher by coming here and flipping through, and now we can see what we've been working on, right? We have private messages, share photos, get notified, report and block. And you see, when we get to the end, we come back to the front and we can swipe through, essentially swipe all through, and we get to this magenta page, or whatever that is, whatever color we decided. And if we go back, yes, so it is sort of working the way we expect it to, except there's a slight problem. You will notice that the buttons here are not in sync with what is happening up here, right? So we have solved one problem, but we have not gotten the other one to work, right? We have not gotten it to work the way we want it to work, right? So what we need to do next would be let us create, I'm trying to think, let's create a bunch of methods, right? So what we're going to do with this method is we're going to create two functions, right? And let's create them, let's see. After the configure pages, we're going to create a bunch of functions. We're going to create a function for the show control and the hide controls, right? So let's create that. So we come here and we say func. This one is going to be called show controls. Show controls. And what it's going to do is it's just going to get the page control bottom anchor, like so. Let's give ourselves a bit more real estate. Page control bottom anchor, and we want the constant to be -8, right? So that you can see it on the screen. Then skip button bottom anchor, and we want the constant here to also be -8, right? And we want the next button bottom anchor, and we want the constant to, that is done, right? And then we have a companion function here. It's going to be called hide control, right? Func hide controls, right? And what we want here is we would like to have the page control, and we would like to have the bottom anchor, and the constant in question is going to be 100. And we could even put it to 1,000. So basically increase it by 1,000 so that it moves completely off the screen, right? And we do the skip button. You will see this a bit when we come to moving the cards off the screen, right? We won't use a package to move the cards. We'll do it ourselves. So you will get intimately acquainted with this functionality of moving stuff off the screen, right? So here we want the constant, although it's going to be slightly different from this, right? So it's going to be 1,000. We're just basically adding 1,000 to it so that it moves completely off the screen. And the next button, and this is going to happen when we get to the login controller. So that is going to be that, and this is going to be 1,000. Okay, so that is going to be that, right? And then we're going to have another function here. This function is going to be called animate controls, right? So this is going to be animate controls, like so. And what is animate controls going to do? Animate controls is going to get the last page. So we say let last page is just going to be page control dot current page. We're going to check the current page, and if it's the last page, and how we get that is going to be pages dot count -1. That's going to be the last page, and we check if last page hide controls, right? So when we come to the what's it called, the login controller, hide the controls, else. And this is basically funneling a user, right? So when you get to the last page, remove the controls. Of course, they're going to be able to go back to the next, to the previous page by swiping. But most of the time, if you remove the controls from the page, they're going to think that this is pushing them towards logging in, because that's where our login is going to be, right? So after they flip through all the pages, they're going to get to this page where they can log in, and they won't know that they can't go back, although they actually can, right? So else, we're just going to say show controls, right? So let me just explain that in a bit, and we're going to see it in a bit, right? So what you want to do is you're going to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, then get here, and then we're going to yank off all these buttons, 1, 2, 3. We're going to yank them off the screen, and when we yank them off the screen, this is going to give the user the idea that you are now done with the onboarding, and we hopefully have read everything that we had to get there. Of course, you can still go back if you wanted by swiping, right? If you swipe, you'll still get back here. And then when we swipe this, we want the controls to come back on screen, right? So that's basically it. And what we want to do next is come here and we say something like, make it a bit more elegant as we're doing it. And we come here and we say UI view property animator dot running property animator with duration, and we want it to be about 0.5, like so. The time we want it to begin right now. So we say that, and the animation, let's give it an option of the curve, right? The option is just basically the curve we want it to be, and this is going to be dot curve ease in out, like so. And we come here and we could put a closure, right? And the closure is going to be self dot view dot layout layout if needed, lays out the subviews immediately if layout updates are pending, right? So just make sure everything looks a bit kosher, right? So that is more or less done. The next thing is going to be we need to create another function, right? Another bunch of functions, right? So we're going to create 3 functions, and these functions are going to be 1, going to the next page, going to the previous page, and going to a specific page. We want the user at any time while they're flipping through to hit this button, and this button should short circuit them by sending them straight to the login controller. This button is going to make you go through to the next page, right? So that's the difference between this button and this button, right? So let's create the functions that would help with that. So we would have the functions in question, and this is just going to be func, and this one is going to be called go to next page. And what is going to go to next page? It's going to do exactly what you think it is, right? We're just going to say guard let current page, right? And this is just going to be view controllers like so, and this is going to be 0, else we are just going to come here and we return, right? So let's do that, and we get the next page. So we say guard let next. This is going to be that, and that's just going to be from the data source. So we say data source dot page view controller. Okay, data source like so dot page view controller, and we want the self like so, and the view controller after is going to be the current page, right? Else we're just going to return, right? Now we have the next page. Now when we have the next page, the next thing is just going to be set view controllers. I think we have come across this before, and this is just going to be, we want the next page, the direction is going to be animated, is going to be true, right? So we have go to next page, and now the next function is going to be go to previous page, right? And why is it complaining here? It's complaining because we're getting the current page, and okay, put the question mark, right? So now it's happy, right? And now the next one is going to be go to previous, right? Which is basically a lot like this. This is going to be go to previous. Okay, I called it previous, but you could call it previous page so that it makes a bit more sense when you come back to it, right? So what we want to do here is just say guard let current page guard let current page. Let's just type it out, right? I was thinking we copy it, but it looks exactly the same. You could copy it if you want. Guard let current page is going to be view controllers, and we want the first one, else probably that, and then that, else come here, and we just want to return, right? Return, spell it correctly. Return, RETURN, right? And we need to get the previous page, right? So we say guard let previous page, and where do we get that? We can get that from the data source, right? We get that from the data source dot page view controller like so, self, and we want view controller. No, this is not after but before. Let's come here and say view controller before, right? Get rid of this, get rid of that, come here, hit tab, and this is going to be the current page like so. So we get that, and we can just put it in the set view controller, right? So we come here. Why is this complaining? We say else before guard condition, guard let. Oh, okay, we are not saying okay, yes, now we have everything we need. The next thing to do is call this functionality. So we say set view controllers, and this is just going to be previous page like so. Direction is going to be let's say reverse. Animation is always going to be true, right? But you could also go put forward, whichever you would prefer, right? Then the next one would be to go to a specific page, right? So let's come here, func, and this is going to be called go to specific page. And what does go to specific page mean? It needs an index, and basically this is going to be a method. We could use it in multiple places, but you're only going to use it basically to do the same thing. You could refine it, right? It has a bit of bloat, but we're going to use it as it is, right? So this is just going to be pages, and this is going to be an array. You could use it maybe for, in case you have more pages, right? You could decide that you want the user to have more pages to flip through, right? So this is still going to work, unless you refine it, of course. Okay, let's write a bit more code. I've talked a lot, right? So that's that. Set view controllers like so, and this is just going to be an array. Pages like so, index like that, direction is going to be dot forward, animated is going to be true like so, and the next thing is going to be I don't think we have created it, right? There's going to be a function, is going to be, where is it? Go to specific page, right? We're going to create a function, and this one is going to be called, let's come here, say this one is going to be called animate controls. Oh, we have created it, right? So I thought, yes, here we have created it. I'd forgotten about it for a second, right? So that is that, and now we need a bit more functionality, right? I know we've written a lot of code and not tested it, but what we need to do is we would need to have the few functions that we're going to call that are going to essentially when we hit the buttons, right? So what we need to do is hook up our buttons, basically, right? When we hit these buttons, we need something to happen, right? So that's what we are trying to do. So what we're trying to do there is it's easier when you create the function first and then call it, rather than the opposite, right? So the first function is going to be, let's come here and say we would like to go to a specific page, right? So I'm not sure if we're going to the specific page we want to animate controls, but we probably don't need to animate controls here. It's a bit superfluous. So that is enough. Let's create the other methods. This is going to be at Objective-C, and this is going to be func, and this one is going to be page control tapped, right? Page control tapped, right? And that's going to be the one at the bottom, right? So we say sender like so, and this is going to be UI page control, right? So when you hit our page control, what we'd like to do, when you hit this, we want us to actually navigate, right? So what we'd like to do is say set view controllers, this method like so, and here we just want to get our array, so we say pages like so, then we want the sender, let's say sender, and we want the current page, right? So we get the current page so that when you hit it, you just go there, and the direction is going to be, okay, the direction is going to be forward, dot forward. Animation is always good, so we could come here and we say true, right? So that's going to be that, and what we want to do here is in case we're in the very last one, animate controls, right? So come here and say animate controls, and the next one is going to be at Objective-C func. This is going to be skip tapped, and what we'd like to do is just say get the last page, let last page, and that can be gotten from pages dot count -1, and this is going to be page control. We are basically making sure that the dots line up, right? So we say page control dot current page is going to be last page, and then we go call the functionality that we just created, go to a specific page. What page? We want to go to the last page, right? And the pages array is just going to be pages, right? So we do that, right? And then animate control, right? So because we definitely are going to be using animate controls, because we're going to the last page where this we are trying to funnel our user into using our app, right? So that is the idea behind some things, right? So here we say func, and this is going to be next tapped. Next tab just goes one page, right? So this one doesn't need the page sender. We could come here and say page control, like so, the current page, and the current page is going to go up by 1, and we just say go to next page, go to next page, and we say animate controls, right? So that's basically that. And now what we'd like to do is we need to tell our buttons about the existence of these methods, right? So our buttons currently don't know about them, so we have not hooked them up together. So we would actually, it would be nice if we actually do that. Let us do it. So let's go to page control, whatever it's called, configure pages, right? So what we want to do is we come here and we say skip button dot add target, and this is going to be the self. The action is going to be hashtag selector. Objective C method is going to be skip tapped. Skip tapped for primary action, right? Primary action triggered. Now there are two ways you could do this. You could say primary action triggered, or I believe dot touch up inside, right? So I'm going to show you both methods because you see them. The touch up inside is the more old-timey method, but either will do, right? So if you see me using one or the other, don't despair. Next button is going to be dot add target self. This is going to be hashtag selector. This is going to be what's it called? Skip tapped, and this is going to be for touch up inside, right? You could use either. And then the next is going to be page control, and let me just check something. We come to our page control. Did we? Yes, here we're getting the sender so that you can get where to go to take the user, right? So that's going to be page control dot add target. This is going to be the self. The selector is going to be hashtag selector. The objective C is going to be not skip tapped, but page control tapped. Page control, what do we call it? We call it page control tapped, right? And this is just going to be underscore that, and this is going to be dot primary action triggered, right? So that's basically that. And what would be the next thing we need to do? The next thing we need to do is maybe let's go to the delegate methods. Have we sorted out the delegate methods? And I think if we do that, we'll be more or less done with this section, right? So here, what we would like to do is type did finish animating. And what we want to do here is just come and say guard let view controllers, like so, and this is going to be page view controllers dot view controllers else return get the current page guard let current index, and current index is just going to be pages, like so, dot first index of view controllers, like so, and we get that else return, like so. Then we come here and we say after this we would just come here and we say page control dot current page, and this is going to be current page is going to be current index, like so, and then you're just going to call animate controls, right? So basically that. Is there anything we have left out? Well, we just want when we are transitioning and we're moving to the next page to have a bit better animation, right? So basically that's basically it. Now let's run everything and see how things are. Now let's see everything as it is and figure out whether everything is where it is. We have written a lot of code, we have not tested it. Let's run things and see what that looks like. So we have this, right? we swipe and we get this, right? So the swiping is working, right? We already established that. But if we hit this, we should go to the page, the last page, and our controls should be yanked off the screen, right? So when you do get to the last page, our controls are yanked off the screen, right? And when we swipe back up, our controls come back up, right? So when we go to the very last page, our controls are yanked off the screen. There, gone. There, gone. So that's working. Now let's just page control, hit this, come to that, hit this, come to that, hit this, come to that, hit this, go to that, hit this, go to that. Okay, everything working. Let's hit this, right? Okay, that's weird. I don't think we were on the last page, but maybe we were. Let's hit this. Okay, we seem to be calling the wrong function from this, right? So let's look at our functions. Next tapped goes to the current page +1. Go to next page. Skip tapped, go to the last page. That works. This works, right? So this is what is the problem. But here we're hitting go to next page and we're saying page control. Yes, we're moving the page control so that the dots match. Then we animate controls just in case, right? Okay, let's see. Let's come back here. Up here to yes. So in the skip button, for the skip button, we are calling the skip button as skip tapped. The next button, we are hitting the skip tapped instead of the next button, right? So this is the problem. The skip button calls the skip tapped. The next button is calling the skip tapped, right? So what we should do is we should call the next button, right? So come here, say next button like so, run this, and now, okay, sorry. It's not next button tapped, but what's it called? Next tapped, right? It's called next tapped. So let's just call next tapped like so. So now we call next tapped, right? So we run this, and when we run this, let's hit this and see if we can cycle through the pages, right? So next page, next page, next page, next page, and we get to the last page. And this is where our login is going to be, which is going to be the subject of our next session. And we come back here, our controls are moved back here, and we can cycle through and cycle back, right? So you will notice that it doesn't animate if you want to see the animation is only when you start, right? So it does this to animate. And if you maybe want to ensure that the animation continues, right, you could increase the number of repeats that we have, right? So we could say dot infinity. That's an option. So if you run dot infinity in this case, what it's going to do is it's going to basically do that, and then do that. When you come back, you're not going to get this. And the reason for this is that we would like to encourage the user when they actually get back here to ensure that they are essentially move them along the procedure, right? Move them along so that they can go to the login controller and now start concentrating on the login controller, because you've already seen this, right? This is no longer new to the user. So what you would like them to do is now when they actually get to this page, you would like them to move on with the login. So we're going to have a bunch of login options, and we would like to funnel them like that, right? So basically this is the first section. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next section.